Well, good morning guys and welcome to the show. How's everybody doing? Fernando?
Hey.
So what we're doing today is a little bit different. We have this, the Thinkware F70 dash cam. So we're gonna take you guys on a journey of installing this guy in this Honda Pilot. We're gonna take you from the easiest plug it into the cigarette lighter all the way up to hardwired into the car for optimum performance. So join us as we go on this little exploration of dash camera. So let's take a look and see what comes in the box. First thing up in the little side pouch here is the camera. Comes with a lens protector over the lens that you can peel off after the installation. On the driver's end here you have the record button as well as a little input here for the optional GPS antenna. You have your lock mount here as well as your power input. On the bottom you'll find where you put your micro SD card. If we pull the little flap open, we'll find the owner's manual that is in several different languages. We can gain access to the micro SD card. It comes with an 8 gig card as well as a reader. This one comes with a cigarette lighter adapter, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. You have the window mount and clip for the camera with some 3M tape on the back. You have an extra piece of 3M tape. You have some wire routing clips as well with 3M tape on the back. Then you have a piece of paper with some customer service information on it. A little bit of information about the camera. It's a 1080 camera that shoots at 30 frames per second. It uses WDR, which stands for wide dynamic range. It uses a 140 degree wide angle lens. The camera itself is a 2.1 megapixel CMOS sensor. It has integrated thermal protection with an operating temperature of 14 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit or -10 to 60 degrees Celsius. The storage temperature capabilities are -4 to 158 degrees Fahrenheit or -20 to 70 degrees Celsius. Now what comes in the box is the cigarette lighter adapter for power. This should be hooked up to a power source that turns on and off with the key. If yours doesn't do that, what you might want to invest in is this guy right here. This is the add-on actual hardwire kit. This allows you to tap into constant 12 volts accessory and ground. There's an extra feature added when you do upgrade to this wiring harness, and that is called parking lot surveillance mode. What that's going to give you is impact and motion detection. So if your car is in the parking lot and someone bumps it, it'll automatically turn on the camera and start recording. It'll also pick up things that move in front of the camera if they're within its range. Don't worry, it uses another feature called energy saver mode, which allows it to operate at very little power consumption when it is connected this way. There is one other option as far as powering the camera up, and that is this. This is the EchoMaster HWK TW01, and what this allows you to do is use your OBD2 to power up the unit. There's a little brain box inside of it, as well as a T-harness, and of course some instructions. Inside this box, you get 2 fastening screws, a giant zip tie, a male and female end for your OBD2, the IGN F3 latching phantom ignition module, as well as the power for the ignition module, and a dedicated end to go into the camera. By plugging into the OBD2, it gives you your constant 12 volts and ground through here, as well as this is going to generate your accessory power to turn on and off with key. This does allow you to keep that parking lot surveillance mode that comes with this harness. It's just another way of accomplishing the same thing. Now they do make dedicated software that allows you to view your camera footage. And to get that, go to us.thinkware.com, select support, select downloads, pick the series camera you have, pick the model number of the camera, scroll down to where you see PC Mac viewer, because this is PC or Mac compatible, then select the operating system you plan on using. In this case we're going to be using Mac. Select download. Now here you can also find the current firmware for your camera. Now we'll come back to this once we actually have some footage that we can view on it. The unboxing's out of the way. We have the car. Let's get an idea of where we're going to put it first, and then we'll figure out where we need to go for our wiring. Page 9 of the instructions, they talk about mounting it onto the windshield. It says, select the installation location that can record the entire view in front of vehicle without obscuring the driver's vision. Ensure that the front camera lens is located in the center of the windshield. So we want to make sure that the lens itself is lined up with the mirror because that's the center of the windshield. We also want to make sure that it's low enough he can lean forward and hit the record button. Now just to get an idea of where we want to put it, we've gone ahead and put some blue tape on here, and we'll stick it on the windshield. and then we'll go out front and check it. How does it look to you? Now, sitting where the customer had the seat when he brought it in, I can lean forward and hit the record button fairly easy. And it's also out of my way of viewing. It sits a little bit lower than the mirror, as you can see there, but it's not really blocking anything because most of my field of view is here on the dash. Since everything is where we want it, let's unclip the camera off of the mount because we don't need that on anymore. We'll set it over on the bench. Next, I'm gonna take a sharp razor knife and I'm gonna cut the blue tape around the mount. You don't wanna actually touch the glass, just touch the groove. That has left us is a template to where our base is going to stick. Clean off our windshield now, make sure it's dry. Test fit the camera on the mount one more time, just to make sure you have it going in the right direction in case it got turned around while you were cleaning the windshield. Use your knife to peel back a corner of the red covering. Line it up with your tape. Go ahead and peel off your blue tape once you have the top just kind of touching on there. Put the camera on one more time. View it from the front just to make sure. We still straight? Perfect. If it's good, pull the camera back off, put your finger on the top, pull the rest of the tape off, going slowly not to move it, and then just push it onto the windshield. And when you're done, slide it back in place. This particular car has a power port right here in the dash. So what that's gonna mean is we're gonna run the wire up around here, down, over, bring it up and around, and plug it into the dash here. For this installation, plug the power cable into the top of the camera. It's going to run up next to the rear view mirror, and then just put your hands up into the headliner until you can get underneath them and just snake the wire across the top of the headliner. A plastic pry tool will help if you can't get your fingers up in there. Remove the side molding off the door jamb to make running the wire easier. In the bag, remember we talked about it had these clips here? That's what those are for. These are so that you can stick it underneath or on the side of something and use that to route the wires. Route the wire over to your power outlet and plug it in. And you're done. This is the basic install for the car. No one believes in doing basic, right? I would strongly recommend buying the Hardwire kit because you get those added extra features. Let's go ahead and show the installation process on that. When doing the Hardwire kit, it needs three things: constant 12 volts, accessory, and ground. And the easiest place to find those is typically at the fuse box in the car. To test for that, we're gonna use a digital multimeter set to volts DC, which is the line with the dots beneath it. And what we're looking for is 12 volts when the car is off. The easiest thing to test for is the constant 12 volts. Some fuse boxes, you'll notice that there's these openings here where there are no fuses. Not all cars have those, but some do. And when they do, those are the places you want to check first. Set our voltmeter up where we can see it. Black probe is for ground. Place that on some metal, and then we'll start probing our open fuses. On each one of these, you have the side that has power and the side that doesn't have power. We want to make sure we go to the side that has power for metering, so make sure you check both the top and the bottom. In this case, we got lucky. The bottom has power, the top does not, and it is giving us 12 volts, and the car is off. There's one right next to it. It has 12 volts as well. On the next row up, the top has the power, the bottom does not, but it is also constant 12 volt. The one next to it is constant 12 volts. We have one more open above it. Measure the top, measure the bottom. Neither one of them is giving me power. Could you turn the car on for me? So the top does not have power, but the bottom does. Turn it off. We've found our accessory power. So in our fuse box, we've been extremely fortunate in that we have a constant 12 volts and we have an accessory. But now the question is, how are we going to tap into those? Join me back at the bench. These are fuse taps. And what they're designed to do is if you pull out your factory fuse that goes here, it'll give you another place for a secondary fuse coming off of that same feed. There's one for each different type of fuse that there are. For example, this is a small long leg fuse. This is the narrower of the two fuses. As you can see, this is a newer style fuse here. And then you have the shorties. What you want to do when using one of these is that this side here needs to be the side with 12 volts. And this side does not. That way the fuse, when it comes through here and out to this side, will blow. If you make this side the side with 12 volts, it's going to loop past the fuse and be non-functional, meaning that this top fuse here for this circuit won't work. 12 volts here, not here, and then it'll come through here, pass through the fuse, and go out to our Thinkware dash cam. For our installation, there is no fuse in that location, but that's okay. We can still use this. All we're going to to do is put a fuse in the top location here, like this. Now we have a fused circuit with a power output. We're gonna need 2 of these, obviously, one for accessory and one for constant 12 volts. There's plenty of wire on the harness. Drape it either around the passenger side or around the driver's side, depending where your fuse box is at. And you'll notice they already have fuses on here as well. We don't need to double fuse them, but we can open them up and see what size fuses these are so we know what to put in ours. The one on the accessory is a 2 amp and the one on the constant 12 volts is as well. We're gonna need just 2 small 2 amp fuses. As far as the ground, it has a simple ring terminal on it. We'll be able to attach that to either a factory ground or use a self-tapping with a star washer to create our own. What we want to do at this point is do something with this cable. We don't want to just see it looking like this. We're going to use some flex loom to go over the top of this and dress it up a bit. Adding the flexible loom to it does give it that factory look, and of course it looks much better than just a basic wire running down the dash. All right, there we go. Now we have a nice dressed cable. Let's take it into the car. If your car uses the short leg fuses like this, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't use the long leg. Sometimes using the long leg is easier because of how recessed in the fuses are. I like to test both to make sure I have the room. The short leg does get in. The other problem you run into is the way that wire needs to run. The bottom is where the 12 volts, so that means our wire needs to be on the top, which works because that means our wire is not going to be hanging down. I like the fit myself of the long leg, and let me show you. The long leg doesn't sit totally flush up against there. It leaves a little bit of room so I can get in and pull it out. The short leg goes in and it just doesn't feel like it's pushing in as far as it needs to. It just doesn't feel like it pushes in far enough. So that means we'll use 2 long legs fuse holders. The bottom one, which is our constant 12 volts, the leg will go up, and the top one, which is our accessory, the leg will go down. Because this install is made to be more permanent, we're gonna go ahead and remove the A-pillar over here so that we can zip tie the wire into place. Now when doing this, be careful of the airbag. Sometimes there are clips there that are a bit fun to get out, so go slow and don't just yank on it. As you can see with the A-pillar off, we do have a nice wiring harness here to attach our wire to. It is also going to make routing the wire a little bit easier along the top because we've pulled out that corner over there. We'll plug our power harness in, route it around the mirror, and up into the headliner. We can run this wire down to our fuse box. Solder the 2 fuse holders onto the wires. When doing soldering over carpet, make sure you put some kind of protection over the carpet so you don't burn a hole in it if the solder were to drop. Next, we want to locate a factory ground point. And it just so happens that there's one right here behind the emergency brake that's a 10mm bolt. Check your routing to make sure you can get it there safely and not have it get in the way of the emergency brake, which we can. Loosen up the bolt. And this has a C slide-on ring terminal, so you don't have to pull it out all the way. Tighten it up, plug in our accessory, wire facing down, and our constant 12 volts, wire facing up. If you want to finish it off, you can use something like Tessa tape to tape up all these wires and make them look factory, and of course, zip tie them into place so that they don't do this. Make it look nice and clean. Now that's installation type number 2. And remember, there's 3. And the next one, well, it's kind of a hybrid between something as simple as plugging it into the cigarette lighter and something as nice as doing this, because it plugs into the OBD2 like we said. There's 2 plugs on either end. Make sure you plug it into the right end, and you'll know because the plug is too small for one and just the right size on the other. The reason why it gives you a male and female end for this is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pull down the factory OBD2, screw this up in its place, and then plug this into the factory, tucking it up into the dash. The reason for that is, like in this car, once you'll see when we get in there, he has one of those insurance reader things to tell how cool he is when he drives. They want to make sure you have access to that with this particular harness. And on the other end, it has the standard cable that we've been running. So we're going to go ahead and cover this in flex loom. Similar to the other cable we installed, we want to go ahead and start by taking off the A-pillar. This is a permanent installation option as well, so we want to make sure we can zip tie those wires into place. Start the same way by plugging our power cable in and routing our wire over to the side. Underneath the dash, here is his insurance reader, and we can plug in the end here. This end, it has 2 screw provisions so that we can screw it into somewhere underneath the dash if we would like. And he has a nice air vent right here. I think we can attach it right here so that it's in about the same place. We'll grab the 2 screws that came in the box. And we can plug back in our insurance reader. It's roughly in the same spot. It's moved about 3 inches. Now what we need to do is find a place to mount this and zip tie all these wires up into the dash and out of the way. Once you've chosen up a way to power up the camera, it's time to put the micro SD card in. When putting the SD card in, make sure that the gold stripes go towards the windshield and then push it up in there. And you have to push up in there really far until it clicks in and doesn't fall out. While you're there, go ahead and pull the plastic protective cover off of the lens. Now at this point, you're all set and ready to go. All you have to do is put the key in the ignition and start driving. But how does it record? There's a couple different methods in which it records while you're driving. During driving, videos are recorded in 1-minute segments, and they're stored in the CONT_REC folder. It also has incident recording, where I'll go back and record 10 seconds before the accident occurred, and that is going to be stored in the EVT_REC folder. And then the third method in which it will record is if you go ahead and hit the record button on the side. So let's start the car, take it for a ride, and record some video. Now when the car turns on, you'll get a red power light. It'll go green.
Continuous recording will now start.
And she's gonna talk to you. Seatbelts. So while you're driving, the green light should be on. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna head down the street just to see what the 1-minute recording looks like. And then we'll go ahead on the way back, push the actual record button to see what those footage files look like. And this is why you want a dash camera, because these people are crazy.
That's right.
Right about the halfway point, Fernando will go ahead and press the record button.
Manual recording will now start.
And she tells you that it's doing it so that you know you've engaged it. This is the other reason to have one of these things. They got a hamster on the back of their car. Just the fun of owning one of these so that you can actually show people the crazy stuff that you see every day while you're driving. They'll have access to that. That's pretty cool. We're back. Let's grab the micro SD card and pull it in and plug it into the computer. To do that, just push up on it and it'll pop out.
Memory card ejected.
It comes with a micro SD to regular SD card converter if you need it, or if you just have a regular micro SD card reader, you can use that. So listed over here on the right hand side, we have EVT. That was the impact that we had when we were adjusting the camera angle at the beginning. Then we have main. These were when we hit the record button on the side of the unit. And then we have the standard 1-minute segments. If you remember back in the video where we were looking at that hamster in the car, this is it here. Now it is raining. Let's press play. Right about the halfway point, Fernando will go ahead and press the record button.
Manual recording will now start.
And she tells you that it's doing it so that you know you've engaged it. Let's see if we can find where that goofball cut in front of us. So here you go, here's where that goofball cut in front of us. Nice. Comes with the 8GB card, but if you want, it'll take up to a 64GB card so that you can have a lot of video recorded to go through and have fun with, sharing and whatnot. As you can see, the benefit of having the Thinkware dash cam ready to go to get that accident if it happens, or someone cuts you off, or someone has a hamster in the back window, definitely. This has been the F70. They have many more to choose from. Make sure to head over to the website to check it out. I'll put a link to it right here so you guys know where to go. And with that, we're gonna end the show. Fernando.
On to the next one, guys.
We'll see you guys later next time.
Bye.